What's up, YouTube? How's it going on, guys? Today's another video talking about there's actually some new Noita tech that has been discovered in the community. It's not like any new content. There was no new patches or anything like that. This has been something that existed in the game for years. It existed for years, and yet people are just now big braining and finding ways to use it and to utilize it, and it's pretty crazy. So I mean, rather than ranting, let me just go ahead and just show you it in action, I guess. It's some wild stuff. I know it may be a little hard to follow, but this is Noita waypoints? Noita portals? I really don't know what the community is going to call these. But I'm going to break down what exactly is going on there. But let me be clear for any new guys out there in the community. This is not going to be something that is like a game changer for a brand new player. This isn't going to be something that helps you a ton, so you may want to watch some other videos if you're brand new. But if you're interested in Noita tech, Noita discoveries, then you may find this interesting. And not only that, but if you're one of those people that's out there trying to make new discoveries, this could be something that, you know, interests you as well, because there is potential that this could open up some other doors. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first off, let's discuss on what exactly is happening here. Let's head down to Comey real fast, and then get into what exactly is happening. So this is pretty much the chain of events as I know it. 3 hamburgers is a known alias in the community, because he has done many things for the community. They've updated like the Noita wiki. They help make you know, Noita tech discoveries, all that kind of stuff. And apparently he was talking with Latali, another known name in the community, and he told him that the area around Comey, wherever Comey's at, the area around him does not unload. And this guy Latali thinking, because one of the problems with something very simple like a dormant crystal with a trigger, whenever you lay it on the ground, it is holding this trigger, which is going to fire off a return spell. So whenever it explodes, it fires off the return spell. And in fact, it doesn't have to be return. It can be like any kind of teleport, right? So whenever it explodes, it will send off a teleport. But the problem with this, and the reason you don't see people use this, is let's say that we drop the crystal way over here, and we're just going to put, where is it? Crystal and teleport. We drop it there. So if we detonate that, we should warp to that point, right? So we should warp right there. So we're going to go flying over here again. And we are going to detonate it now with explosive detonator. We're casting it. Nothing is occurring. Yet, when we travel back over there, you will see that the crystal is still sitting there. There it is. And I will blow it up. Nothing happens. No teleport, nothing. That's because whenever you put like a spell inside of another spell, pretty much like the trigger, oops, the dormant crystal with trigger delivers the payload, which is this spell. Whenever it unloads, like we move too far away, this area is no longer loaded. It's not like in the rendering range. The engine is no longer tracking this spell. It knows it's there, but it doesn't track any information about it. The areas, the pixels are not being simulated. It doesn't care about it. Whenever you move back into the zone, it reloads it in, but it does not load in the payload that's in it. So it's just a crystal sitting by itself. So not only can you not interact with it, but it doesn't even carry the payload anyways. It loses it. However, since the boss area never unloads, that means that it will only unload this area if you close your game down. And because once the very first time you load it in, it's pretty much permanent until you close your game down. Meaning, like, you can hit save and quit or mod restart. That will lose. The crystal will still be there, but it will lose the payload that is inside of it. So no, for this trick to work, you cannot close your game down. Obviously, you know, you can, once you close your game down, if you bring it back up, you could then, you know, lay new spells. But let me show you that, for example. So if I lay it there and I cast, still good. I lay it there, I travel far away. Still good. If I lay the crystal trigger down, It's laying right there. And then I do a restart. This is closing the game down, loading it back up. That means that unloaded and reloaded. This is whenever it loses track of the payload. So the crystal will still be there whenever we load in. See, the crystal's still sitting there. But now whenever we cast the explosive detonator, it's not in it. So essentially, to those things that are far away from like the boss, that's the same thing as like the engine kind of closing down and reopening, because it's unloading and reloading it back in. So now with this information, people have gotten a little crazy with it and found neat tricks. So let me go ahead and show those off and show off a little bit of how I was warping up and down real quick. So first off, if you want to go from point A to point B, this was the first problem that needed to be solved. And what we did here is we put a dormant crystal inside of a dormant crystal and then put the trigger. Now, the reason this is important is because if you just have one crystal and you're like, oh, this is point A, and then I want to have point B. If you wanted to be able to jump from point here to here, if you use the explosive detonator, they're both going to blow up at the same time. They both just blow up and you just warp to one of them. But the other crystal exploded. So by putting a crystal within a crystal, that changes things. Because you can drop this crystal off, and then you blow it up one time. It coughs out another crystal. And then we go over here, and we spit out one. Now that means they are off sync. This one has 2 crystals. This one has 1. So whenever I use the explosive detonator, it's going to warp me to the left. Warp me to the left. Then I drop a fresh one. I cast it at the explosive detonator. It's going to warp me to the right. Hopefully that's making a little bit of sense. And you can just, you can just do this forever. You just jump back and forth, however long you want to. Point A to point B. So now that you understand the whole, like, jumping from one point to another point, let me go ahead and clear all the crystals. Now, let me show you something else, and then don't worry, I'm slowly building up here so that you can kind of wrap your mind around what's happening. Now, it does not have to be the dormant crystal with trigger. It doesn't even have to be the explosive detonator. The whole concept that you're needing to understand is storing a spell inside of another spell that you can then, anywhere that you're at, you can set that spell to explode or die off so that it can deliver the teleport. Another example of that could be, you could have the explosive box. The explosive box on its own is not a trigger. You have to add something to it. So you would think that add trigger would be good, but actually add trigger just makes it where when it explodes, it doesn't even recognize. It's kind of weird. The better thing to use here would be add expiration trigger, which means what expiration means on death. So when the explosive box dies, means it blows up, how in whatever way that it blows up, deliver a teleport. It could be small telly, it could be return, it doesn't matter. So we drop off the box, and then we cast the explosive detonator, and you'll see that it drops off the return spell, and then in a second it's going to pull me over there like that. As again, you could use just the regular teleport. There's no difference. It's really up to you. It's probably personal preference. I guess that one you may want to avoid the damage from it. So return probably be better at avoiding hurting yourself. But also, even the explosive detonator is not set in stone. It doesn't have to be the explosive detonator. You could just use spells to death crosses and drop this off. And whenever you, in fact, let's see, what do I want to do? I guess we just blow it up now. Boom. See, and the idea is we're killing this spell off so that it can deliver the next spell. And now that you're seeing that I'm using the dormant crystal with trigger just because it's the best example, I feel like. But don't go thinking. I don't want you thinking one-dimensionally, right? I want you seeing that this is just the mechanic that you're supposed to see. You can use this probably with tons of different spells. It's just up to you to come up with a way to use them. But one more thing, though, I wanted to show off here. And remember that spells to death crosses would also work on the dormant crystal with trigger, too. So if I wanted to, I could just, the dormant crystal with trigger kills the crystal, which delivers that. So, and I guess I could better visualize that for you here if I put that there. Then threw that there. And then now, I shot them both, so I messed up. You're supposed to set it out of sync. So it's going to try to warp me to both at the same time. Oh, wait, no, the other crystal blew up because of the death cross. Yeah, there it goes. Anyways, Don't worry too much about that one. I was kind of just showing different ways to use this. But let me show you something here that basically will help you follow other people's builds, because I think once that this comes out there, you'll probably see other examples. Well, if you follow many streamers and stuff, if you ever see them using this, their wands may look a little complex. Because let me show you real quick. Oops. Okay, I just had to get rid of that charge. There we go. This. This build right here is pretty much the exact same as this build is. The only difference is this one, because Dormant Crystal with Trigger will run out of charges unless you have the Unlimited Spells perk. This one, oops. What was the order again? Yeah, that was it. This is infinite. So let me break it down for you. So this is the Dormant Crystal with Trigger, but it has 0 charges. So it moves to the next spell. This is the Alpha. Cast a copy of the very first spell on my wand. This is the first spell on my wand. So pretty much the Alpha is a Dormant Crystal with Trigger. So this is here, pretty much. So this Dormant Crystal with Trigger casts the next spell whenever it blows up. The next spell is Gamma. Gamma casts a copy of the last spell. So it copies this one. So pretty much these two get copied like that. And then this is the trigger that goes after it. So this is pretty much the exact same build, but it does not have the limitation of charges, which will allow me to use it and warp back and forth however I would like to, unlimited. I just feel like sometimes people, especially new players, it'll be something that's very simple to wrap your mind around, but because the Greek letters can be very intimidating, they think that maybe it's something beyond them. They're like, oh, this is something really advanced that only like some high tier players do. When in reality, it's usually something simple like that. It's like, yeah, you're pretty much using a basic build. You just use some infinite spell version of a basic build. Okay, so let me now warp up to the top. What I'm going to do, so I actually have the cheat GUI on right now, so I can warp away and show you guys something neat about this. So if we warp far away, like to the surface, for example, this area right here unloads after we leave, but it only unloads like a couple seconds after I leave. Meaning, as long as I travel pretty quickly, like if I go here, shoot out another teleport and travel back, I can jump there and back as long as I do it within a couple seconds. The tricky part is though, whenever you warp there, you need to make sure to drop off a new crystal. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to jump back again. So, you know, I drop off my crystal, I warp, and then I jump there and I jump back. You only have a couple seconds. I mean, you can kind of push it a little bit. Like I'm probably going a little faster than necessary, but it's only a couple seconds. It's not a lot of time between them. Here, I'll show you a failed attempt. Even that one's still warped. Alright, let's try it again. I'm pushing it. You can see, though, there's like this window here. Even that one worked. Not bad. See, you got a little bit of time. I'm trying to show you that, you know, you don't have to fully panic, but you also don't need to take your sweet time. See, that one was too slow. I took my sweet time. So let me real quickly warp back to the surface. So the way I recommend doing this, if you do want to use this Colmy area for maybe collecting wands, then the way you would go about it is you would prep a drop. Remember, this crystal lost its payload, so it's going to blow up, but it has nothing in it. You are going to need to drop real quickly, do that. Whew. It's pretty quick. You got to go pretty quick. But this method could allow you to go to the overgrown caverns and keep dropping off wands by Colmy. So even though, let's pretend you don't have Tinker with Wands everywhere, you could store like 7 or 8 wands down there. And then once you have all these wands that you've dropped off, let me do another one, I guess, for example. I wasn't fast enough on that one. I was not quick enough, so you gotta be fast. That one was too quick. But you know, you probably can get better with that with time. And there's other methods using return that other players would probably be really good at doing. I'm just trying to give you an example. But pretend that you were really good at it. You stored up all these wands right here, and then you were like, okay, now I stored all these wands. Then you could just pick them up and kind of carry them on over to the Holy Mountain, which is right next to it, and then you could edit there. That's one way to utilize it. That way I think is pretty helpful. But the way that I plan to utilize this in my runs, that yes, it won't help the brand new players, but in experienced players, I think they'll use this quite often, is it's not too crazy to come across a dormant crystal, right? Maybe it's a dormant crystal just by itself. You don't even have to have the add trigger. Let me just do a spell refresh here real quick so that people can kind of visualize this. Oh, there it is. And remember, you don't need mods to do this. I'm just, having the mods so that you guys don't, this video, I already rant long enough, so I don't want to make it like a 3-hour long video if I don't use that mod. So, Dormant Crystal with trigger, we could put return in it, we could put the other teleport, it doesn't matter, right? Just some way to warp. And then from there, the way I see me probably using this would be that along my journey down to Colmy, I have found, let's pretend I found these resources, right? And so I will just drop off. Actually, let me get rid of the crystal that's here right now. Yeah. So I will drop off this setup, this dormant crystal with trigger and return. So we just drop it right there. That's all. It's just these two spells. Now, I then would head down to hell. Let me go ahead and build a good tele wand real fast, because otherwise I'll go crazy from the slow travel and everything. Oh, I forgot the charges kind of messed me up here a bit. Alright. Let's fast travel our way down. And earlier I went down here, so I don't think it should be too many issues. The reason I'm doing this real time, I know some people may be like, skip ahead, which you can skip ahead if you would like. But not a lot of players know exactly how far down hell exactly is. And you need to see that it is, it's quite the journey. So, to have the opportunity to instantly warp back up is kind of exciting as an experienced player, because one of the reasons I don't visit hell that often is that I find it very annoying. The travel back up is super slow, and what if I didn't even have like a regular tele wand? Like, what if the only spell I had was return? Well, that's not a good option to go back up. Traveling up would be a huge pain. Now all I need is dormant crystal trigger and like some spell to store in it. Now, in this scenario, if I didn't have Tinker with Wands everywhere, then I would need to have Explosive Detonator pre-set up on a wand somewhere. But, or if I killed the Master of Masters, you get the stone. There's a stone that allows you to edit your wands wherever you're at. So that also is a possibility that you could use. Oh, okay. Making sure I didn't go too far. But let's say that you do have Tinker with Wands everywhere. Well, if you look around in hell, there are these spells down here. And in fact, I'll show them on the progress bar. You have to have these unlocked by doing the Hell Chest quest. But spells to nukes, spells to get death crosses, all of these will basically give us a way to warp back up. Even though maybe when you initially went down here, you didn't even have a method. Okay, that's cool. That guy just electrocuted me. I'm just traveling around here for a second to see if I could actually show a real-time example of utilizing that, but it may not be meant to be. So just pretend, because this is a spell that would, this spells to get the death crosses, that's a spell you would find down here. Same for magic missiles, but remember they're going to cost like 35,000. So once you found it, you'd be like, oh sweet, I found I found the spell down here, and you edit it onto your wand, and then you just cast it. And what it will do is it will blow that crystal up, cast return, warps the player back up there. Saves me doing that long travel all the way back up. Not only that, but whenever you visit hell, there's that hell shop. Tons of great spells potentially there, but sometimes you're looking for that one specific spell, like Summon Taikasova, or just some very rare spell. And so then you can actually drop down even further, and there's another hell shop. But the reason that you don't see a ton of people doing that is because the further down you travel, the further up you have to go, right? So you're like, I don't want to keep going down and down and down and then have to walk all the way back up. That's just ridiculous. But now you can actually, you would be more encouraged, because you'd be like, oh, if you already have a way back up, then you're okay with going down 2 to 3 hell shops down and then just warping your way instantly back up. That one, I think, is kind of a game changer for experienced players. It's not going to blow anybody's mind, but I think it's kind of some fun tech. Anyways, I won't keep ranting, but I just want to put this information out there, and also shout out to 3 Hamburgers, obviously, for making this this information known, and Latali for really going crazy with it. And there was Jeff today that really made me think I gotta hurry up and make a video on this, because people have already gone crazy with the tech. But Jeff actually was showing the quick warping back and forth, and showed that as long as you do it within a couple seconds, you really show that it works. Just don't let the area unload, and that's kind of tricky timing that. But as you can see here, he actually had a build where he was swapping in bosses. He would go up to the boss using the teleport technique. You hit him with a swapper and swap them down to Comey to then have to fight Comey to the death. Yes, that's how crazy this tech can get. Now again, that's not exactly something you would do reasonably in a run. You're not going to be like, hey, let the bosses fight to the death. That's a little bit extreme, but it's still some pretty cool stuff. Let me see. I was hoping I could pull up the setup that he had going on there. Let me scroll, see if I can find. Yeah, here's the setup he had posted his build. I think Latali had built this first one, so he did like a swapper setup with the build, as you can see. But some people may see these builds and think that this is some crazy stuff, which it is pretty crazy. But at its core, it's the simple stuff that I explained here, which is basically this area not unloading, and then just warping out of it and warping back into it as fast as you can so that the area doesn't unload. So remember, the zones that do not unload are Comey, which is where we're at right here. That's the main one, the highlight one. The sun, if you've created it before. The dark sun, if you've created it before. And then the sun child. The sun child is basically between whenever you're starting the sun quest, you're trying to create the sun, and you'll hit this moment where it's not the sun seed anymore, but it's also not fully a sun. That is the sun child, and that one's a big deal too, because if you're doing your sun quest, you can use this warping technique to carry more stuff over to the sun child, because normally the sun child, and actually I think Jeff actually even has a clip of him doing exactly that, because you have to carry 5 essences to make like the dark sun, for example. You have to carry all 5 essences to it. Well, now you can just use this warping method. You don't really, I mean, yes, you have to carry it there one time, but you can easily, throw your essences into the sun, go back, grab more, keep warping back and forth, and just carrying them all over to the sun really speeds up the process quite a bit, which I thought that one was a pretty cool example that Jeff did. Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for showing that, man. I appreciate you. But yeah, so point is, tech is young. Yes, the tech is very young. There's still discoveries to be made. But who knows? Maybe somehow this concept of unloading and loading chunks. What if the problem with the cauldron is that the cauldron unloads? So that's why we're usually not seeing any interactions with it. Maybe if somehow you could keep the cauldron area loaded in, there could be special interactions. I don't know. It's unlikely. That's probably some copium. I don't know. I won't rant on that for too long. But yeah, there you go. There's your newest Noita tech. There's your rant for the day. Hopefully you guys didn't go too crazy listening to me on that one. Stay sweaty. Stay awesome, chat. I'll see you guys soon.